Wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate tracker on WION World is One.
Everyone loves a contest. But sport isn't just about victory and defeat. When the GOATs in sport speak, you hear it first on WION.
You have to play good cricket over a period of time.
I actually pushed myself right out of the damn tournament.
We go beyond the stats. Our stories are quoted the world over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.
Know more, understand better, think ahead. Hello and a very warm welcome. You are watching Gravitas with me, Molly Gambhir. Get the facts, not the bombast. On the 26th of March, dynamic pricing, Baloch separatists, Gravitas cuts out the clutter. Gravitas keeps calm when others scream. Gravitas brings news to life. Weekdays 9 p.m. IST, 3:30 p.m. GMT. Gravitas. Seeing is believing.
Good morning, Asia. Good evening, America. You're watching World DNA with me, Raisha Sehgal.
And I'm Hem Kaur Surya, and on the show this morning, we continue tracking what's happening in West Asia after Israel and Hezbollah launched a barrage of strikes at each other. Hezbollah chief Hassan Nasrallah has said that there may be a second phase of the retaliatory attacks on Israel, but it largely depends on the assessment of the Israeli sites damaged by Hezbollah. Netanyahu, on the other hand, says that this is not the end of the matter. All this while long-stalled ceasefire talks have resumed in Cairo.
Right, from one war front to another, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that Kiev forces, they have made small advances into Russia's Kursk region. Meanwhile, a British national who was working in eastern Ukraine was killed in a missile strike. We will be tracking all of that on the show today, but first a quick check on the headlines.
White House says it is working to avert escalation of conflict in West Asia as Israel and Hezbollah engage in heaviest exchange of fire since the beginning of the war in Gaza.
Hamas rejects new Israeli conditions put forward in Gaza ceasefire talks, casting further doubt on chances of a breakthrough in the latest effort to end the 10-month-old war.
India's Central Bureau of Investigation completes the polygraph tests of 7 people, including the main accused Sanjoy Roy, in the rape and murder of a trainee doctor.
A member of a Reuters news agency team covering the war in Ukraine was killed and 2 others were injured after missile strike on a hotel in eastern Ukraine. This as Russia launched several missiles and drones targeting northern and eastern Ukraine, according to Kyiv's military.
India-Singapore to held multi-ministerial roundtable today. 4 Indian ministers to attend the meet to identify new areas of bilateral cooperation.
The United Arab Emirates achieves a record $381.5 billion in non-oil trade for the first half of 2024. Strategic agreements with countries like Iraq and India are driving a major trade growth.
Mondo Duplantis is making a strong case for being the greatest athlete of all time. The Swede broke his own pole vault world record for the 10th time by clearing 6.26 meters at the Escalation Diamond League. Israel and Hezbollah exchanged their heaviest exchange of missiles since the beginning of the Gaza war, and the United States says it is keeping track of the situation and is working to avert any further escalation.
I can't speak directly to the conversations that unfolded yesterday, other than to say there was continuous communication, and we have been tracking the threat of Hezbollah attacks against Israel for some time now. And of course, those attacks have been unfolding since October 7th, in addition to the specific operations and actions that took place yesterday.
Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah said that it was able to carry out its attack as planned in retaliation to the killing of top Hezbollah commander Fuad Shukra in Beirut last month. Nasrallah said Hezbollah managed to fire 320 rockets and drones at Israel.
On the other hand, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu claimed that the country's military had intercepted all the missiles and drones that Hezbollah launched at strategic targets.
Netanyahu also claimed that Israel had carried out preemptive strikes against Hezbollah in Lebanon. He claimed that hundreds of Israeli fighter jets destroyed thousands of rocket launchers of the Iran-backed group. Nasrallah, meanwhile, refuted the claims as false, adding that only dozens of rocket launchers were destroyed.
Meanwhile, the United States has cleared that it was not involved in the strikes in Lebanon or shooting down incoming projectiles.
A U.S. official said that America's role was limited to tracking the barrage of rockets and drones launched by Hezbollah. Well, the question today is, what will happen next in West Asia? Nasrallah said Hezbollah would assess the results of the operation carried out on Sunday, and it would then determine whether it would carry out further attacks or not.
On the other hand, Netanyahu has warned that Israel's preemptive strike on Hezbollah in Lebanon was not the end of the story. Meanwhile, Reuters reported that Israel and Hezbollah had communicated via intermediaries in order to prevent further escalation. All right, for more on this, we're now being joined by Professor James A. Russell, Associate Professor in the Department of National Security Affairs at NPS. Thank you so much for joining us on World DNA, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, with the recent exchange of strikes between Israel and Hezbollah in retaliation to the killing of Fuad Shukra, How do you assess the risk of a wider war in the region?
Well, I think the major development over the weekend, it seems to me, has been that the Iranians have declined to basically start a wider war, at least right now. Israel provoked Iran and attempted to get, I think Israel seeks a wider war with Iran, and their assassination of the Hamas leader was a deliberate attempt, I think, to get Israel, an attempt to get Iran to respond directly to this attack. And I think the weekend, events of the weekend have made clear is that the Iranians have declined to get directly involved, which also speaks, I think, to a broader dynamic of there's a sort of a mutual uneasy deterrence in place in which Hezbollah and Israel are what in military parlance we would say they're firing for effect. In other words, they're preserving the narratives that each of them seeks to perpetuate, that the conflict is going on and that they're responding forcefully. But in fact, I think both sides have recognized that they're not going to escalate further because there can be no broader political effect gained by a Israel-Hezbollah war, which is to say neither side can impose its will on the other militarily.
Right, Professor. Now, you've clearly said that with both Israel and Hezbollah saying that they don't want a war, but they're ready for it. That's what has happened over the weekend. Talk to us more about the claims and the counterclaims coming at this point of time, with Hezbollah leaders saying that it targeted Israeli military bases, but all those claims have been refuted and rejected by Israel. How do you assess the situation right now, and what's the broader strategy, especially with the Hezbollah leader saying that it will assess the damage it caused to Israeli bases before deciding the future course of action?
Well, I think this is an example of what we would characterize as the attempt to sort of seize control of the narrative of conflict, which is to say that each side seeks to perpetuate the storyline, the narrative that they are responding forcefully, and that they're seeking to assess, the levels of damage that they have inflicted upon the adversary. And this is consistent with the interactions between Hezbollah and Israel that have unfolded throughout this war, I think, in which neither side is really ready for an all-out war because both recognize that neither can win. I mean, let's face it, the IDF has not defeated Hamas after 10 months. It's not clear what exactly they think they could accomplish by an invasion of southern Lebanon to go after Hezbollah directly. And on the other side, it's also clear that Hezbollah does not have the means at its disposal to impose its will militarily on the Israelis on the battlefield. And I think there's a general recognition of this on both sides. But be that as it may, both sides have the incentive to sort of create the narrative that they're responding forcefully for different reasons. It seems the Likud, the Israeli Likud narrative, of course, embraces this sort of storyline of perpetual struggle and perpetual war, surrounded by savages. And Hezbollah, for its part, has adopted a similar line of which they see themselves as the sort of armed bastion of resistance to Israeli aggression in the region. But I think the real important development here, or the important actors in the room, are the Iranians and the Americans. And the Iranians have declined to join into this latest round of gunfire exchange. Because it seems to me, I can't obviously speak for the Iranian leadership, but it's obvious that they have not fallen for this trap that Netanyahu set for them when he assassinated the Hamas leader inside Iran by responding directly with attacks on Israel. So it seems to me that Iran is exercising restraint, as it has for the most part throughout this the 10-month period, despite repeated provocations from the Israelis to get more involved. And the United States, of course, it seems to me this is the United States and Iran are in agreement, basically, that they do not want to see a wider war. It's the Israelis, of course, and Netanyahu that seeks a wider regional war. And I don't think Hezbollah has an interest in a wider regional war. But then, by contrast, Hamas sees political benefit to the war continuing because, remember, this is a war of the weak against the war of the strong. Hamas cannot win on the battlefield. It can only win in the court of global public opinion. And so the continuation of the war continues to elevate the Palestinian cause around the world, which continues to put political...
Professor Russell, in fact, I was just going to come to this. We have seen that the long-stall talks are also going to resume in Cairo. Hamas has rejected Israel's new proposals that have been put forth. Now, expanding on what you just mentioned, do you think peace can be secured anytime soon?
I don't think so. I wish I could argue differently. But the incentive structure in the bargaining framework between the sides are not aligned, or if just to contradict myself, they are aligned but in a negative way. For Hamas, as I say, the incentive is for the war to continue because that's to their, or they believe to their political benefit, to elevate the struggle of the Palestinian cause to the global level, and for the Israelis, they also seek the continuation of the war because they have been conducting this genocidal war of ethnic cleansing in which they seek to kill as many of the Palestinians as they can and to take over parts of Gaza and start the colonization process as they have in the West Bank. And so you don't have aligned interests. The only aligned interests here are between Iran and the United States. And until these interests become aligned, and in the case of, like, if I'm going to refer to the bargaining framework, the United States refuses to place any significant pressure on Israel to alter its behavior. The war is going to continue, and much to the detriment, of course, of the poor innocent Palestinians who are on the receiving end of this.
Right, Professor. Thank you so much for joining us on World DNA with your insights.
Thank you for having me.
All right, on the other hand, Ukraine has accused its Moscow allied neighbor Belarus of concentrating troops on the country's shared border.
Warning against unfriendly actions, Kiev has asked Minsk not to make tragic mistakes under Moscow's pressure.
Now, it says that it had recorded the presence of Wagner fighters on the border. Ukraine has urged Belarusian armed forces to withdraw away to a distance greater than the firing range of Belarus's systems. Remember, Belarus had allowed Russian troops to use its territory as a launchpad for their invasion of Ukraine in February 2022.
The statement comes as Kiev mounts an incursion into Russia's Kursk region and as Russia continues its advance into eastern Ukraine. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has reported further advances into Kursk.
He said that forces have taken 2 more settlements under their control and that active actions are underway in 1 more settlement.
As a part of an effort to counter Russia's advances in eastern Ukraine's Donetsk region, Ukraine claims to have seized considerable Russian territory in Kursk region and also captured hundreds of Russian soldiers. Zelensky has also said that the country's incursion into Kursk was launched preventively to stop Russia from occupying Ukrainian cities of Kharkiv and Sumy.
And their next step was to prepare everything in the northern part of our country on the side of the city of Sumy near the Kursk region. And the difference here is that we did it preventively so that they would not capture our city and we were able to do it before them.
But as crossfire and counter-claims continue, a Reuters journalist was killed and 2 others injured in a strike in the eastern Ukrainian city of Kramatorsk.
Ryan Evans, a member of the Reuters team covering the war in Ukraine, was killed and 2 journalists were injured in a strike on a hotel in the eastern Ukrainian city of Kramatorsk. In a statement, Reuters said Evans was killed after a missile struck the Hotel Sapphire, where he was staying as part of a 6-person team on Saturday. 2 Reuters journalists were being treated in hospital. One of them was seriously injured. The news agency said it was urgently seeking more information about the attack and working with authorities in Kramatorsk. The 3 other members of the team who were in the hotel at the time of the strike were accounted for and safe, the agency said. Evans, a former British soldier, had been working with Reuters since 2022 and advised its journalists on safety around the world, including in Ukraine, Israel, and at the Paris Olympics. He was 38. We send our deepest condolences and thoughts to Ryan's family and loved ones, Reuters said in the statement. Ryan has helped so many of our journalists cover events around the world. We will miss him terribly. President Volodymyr Zelensky said the hotel was hit by a Russian Iskander missile, a ballistic missile that can strike at distances up to 310 miles.
And well, for more on this, our correspondent Anas Malik has sent us this ground report from Kiev as Ukraine gains ground in the Kursk region.
Well, the Russian aggression on Ukraine continues as Ukraine marked its Independence Day yesterday, and also 2.5 years of the invasion of Russia into Ukraine. There were 2 separate attacks, first in Donetsk and the other in Belgorod. The Belgorod attack claimed the lives of at least 5 while injuring another 13. The one in Donetsk was targeted at journalists. That's what the Reuters news agency says, that the hotel that was targeted, it had its journalists, and that one of the persons from their teams, one of the journalists, is unaccounted for. The other 2 are injured. That's what Reuters say. Meanwhile, Ukraine has been able to secure a prisoner exchange on its part. Those soldiers which were captured in Mariupol, and Russia on their part, the prisoners that were exchanged were those who were captured during the recent invasion of Kursk just earlier this month. Now, it is pertinent to mention that this is the first prisoner exchange since Ukraine began its surprise assault in Russian region of Kursk, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in his Twitter post has vowed that the Ukrainian people and the government is ever resilient, and they hope and they believe that victory will be theirs. Anas Malik in Kyiv, Ukraine for WION World is One.
Now, following Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Kyiv visit, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has proposed a second Ukrainian peace summit,
which is to be held in one of the global south countries, preferably India.
Now, supporting New Delhi as the new potential host for peace negotiations in the ongoing war with Russia, Zelensky said he is not pressuring any country, but it is only logical to have the South Asian nation broker the next peace talks, as it is quote-unquote a great country and a great democracy.
Індія також бере участь в нашій роботі щодо формули миру. Була представлена.
India is also participating in our work on the peace formula. It was represented at the peace summit, and we are working in the relevant groups according to the peace formula. All of this gives us optimism, and it is important that as many global actors as possible clearly express their position on the fundamental norms of international law and visit Ukraine, showing their support in a tangible way. Of course, today we also discussed the bilateral agenda with India. 4 intergovernmental documents were signed by our representatives. There are also agreements on the other areas of cooperation, including military technical cooperation.
Напрямків співпраці, зокрема і військово-технічні.
The Ukrainian president added that he is also in discussions with other countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey and Switzerland regarding this summit, but insisted that the peace summit can only be hosted in a country that is a signatory of the summit's joint declaration for peace.
Zelensky was addressing a conference of Indian journalists. He said that during his meeting with Prime Minister Modi, all aspects of the first peace summit's communique, including the key points of the declaration, were discussed.
He expressed openness to India's participation in various points of the peace formula, but particularly pushed for India's involvement in the humanitarian aspect of returning the displaced Ukrainian children affected by the ongoing war with Russia.
Zelensky said, and I'm quoting here, "We would be pleased if India joined this point of the formula, the return of children to the humanitarian aspect, from the point of view of your neutral status."
During his visit to Kiev, Prime Minister Modi urged Ukraine to opt a path of dialogue with Russia for the resolution of the conflict. He offered to act, and I'm quoting here, as a friend to help bring peace. Ukraine held the first peace conference in June this year, which was attended by the officials from more than 90 countries. Moscow, however, was not invited. Last month itself, Russia's deputy foreign minister said that Moscow will not attend the second summit because its proposals will be ignored.
Kyiv and its allies have made clear that Ukraine's territorial integrity must be the cornerstone of any peace deal with Russia, having previously rejected the prospect of ceding territory in exchange for a ceasefire.
Waged its brutal war to uphold our collective commitment to security and nuclear safety.
Moving on, in the aftermath of recent stabbing attack in Germany that killed 3 and injured 8 people, a Syrian man has confessed to the police that he was the perpetrator.
According to prosecutors, the 26-year-old is suspected to have ties with the Islamic State. Meanwhile, members of a far-right political party staged a protest in Germany's Solingen on Sunday.
In response, counter-demonstrators also came out, resulting in a clash with the police. The incident comes on the heels of a similar stabbing attack that took place in the United Kingdom. Our next report telling you more.
A suspect in German custody after a stabbing rampage in the city of Solingen arrived at the federal prosecutor's office in the city of Karlsruhe on Sunday. The attack occurred during a festival on Friday, killing 3 people and injuring 8. The suspect, who is a 26-year-old Syrian man, turned himself in and admitted to the crime, authorities said. Police said the case is under, quote, intensive investigation and that they are looking into his possible links with Islamic State. They searched garbage bins and backyards for more evidence at the market square where the fatal stabbing took place. Islamic State described the man taken into custody as a, quote, soldier of the group, but it did not provide any evidence for this assertion. The incident, which officials described as, quote, an act of terror, shocked the city of Solingen. Mourners gathered for a church memorial and paid tribute to the victims. Herbert Reul, North Rhine-Westphalia's interior minister, said the suspect came from a home for refugees that was searched on Saturday. The suspect had moved to Germany late in 2022 and sought asylum, according to German media, citing unidentified security sources. Centre-right politician Friedrich Merz urged the country to stop admitting further refugees from Syria and Afghanistan. Germany's federal criminal police said there have been around a dozen Islamist-motivated attacks since 2000. One of the biggest was in 2016 when a Tunisian drove a truck into a Christmas market in Berlin, killing 12 and injuring dozens.
Now, a Telegram messaging app has reacted to the arrest of its founder and CEO Pavel Durov in France.
Durov was reportedly arrested at an airport outside Paris shortly after landing on a private jet. Telegram has said that Durov has nothing to hide and that it is absurd to hold an owner responsible for abuse of the platform.
Now, adding that Durov travels frequently in Europe, Telegram asserted that the APP abides by EU laws, including the Digital Services Act. The statement added that Telegram's moderation is within industry standards and constantly improving, and that they are awaiting a prompt resolution of the situation.
The detention of the Russian-born billionaire has prompted a warning from Moscow to Paris that he should be accorded his rights.
Russian embassy in Paris has asked for consular access to Durov and also asked French authorities to explain the reasons for the arrest.
Meanwhile, ex-owner Elon Musk has said that free speech in Europe is under attack. Musk shared a post on X that read, "Free Pavel." Our next report getting you more.
Founder and CEO of the Telegram messaging app Pavel Durov was reportedly arrested in France on Saturday. French media citing unnamed sources say he was arrested at Bourget airport outside Paris. Durov was reportedly traveling aboard his private jet. According to TV news network TF1, he was targeted by an arrest warrant in France as part of a preliminary police investigation. News outlets TF1 and BFM both said the investigation was focused on the lack of moderators on Telegram. Police apparently said that allowed criminal activity to go on undeterred on the messaging app. Reuters did not get a response for comment from Telegram, nor the French Interior Ministry and police. Russian-born Durov founded Telegram with his brother in 2013. With close to 1 billion users, Telegram is influential in Russia, Ukraine, and the republics of the former Soviet Union. Its increasing popularity, however, has prompted scrutiny from several countries in Europe, including France, on security and data breach concerns. And since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Telegram has become the main source of unfiltered and sometimes graphic and misleading content from both sides about the war. Durov, who Forbes estimates has a fortune worth $15.5 billion, said some governments have sought to pressure him, but the app should remain a neutral platform and not a player in geopolitics. Russia began blocking Telegram in 2018 after the app refused to comply with a court order to grant state security services access to its users' encrypted messages. Telegram, which allows users to evade official scrutiny, has also become one of the few places where Russians can access independent news about the war, after the Kremlin increased curbs on independent media in recent years.
And well, it's now time for a quick short break, but don't go anywhere. On the other side of World DNA, we'll get you the latest from India, where India's Central Bureau of Investigation has completed the polygraph tests of 7 people, including the main accused, Sunjoy Roy, as a part of the probe into the rape and murder of a trainee doctor in Kolkata's RJ Hospital. We'll get you the latest of that report. Stay with us. You're watching WION World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
Welcome back to World DNA. Thank you so much for staying with us. Lots lined up for you on the side of the show. Let's get started with the headlines first.
India's Central Bureau of Investigation completes polygraph test of 7 people, including main accused Sunjoy Roy in the rape and murder case of a trainee doctor.
White House says it is working to avert escalation of conflict in West Asia as Israel and Hezbollah engage in heaviest exchange of fire since the beginning of the war in Gaza.
Hamas rejects new Israeli conditions put forward in Gaza ceasefire talks, casting further doubt on chances of a breakthrough in the latest effort to end the 10-month-old war.
A member of a Reuters news agency team covering the war in Ukraine was killed and 2 others injured after missile strike on a hotel in eastern Ukraine. This as Russia launched several missiles and drones targeting northern and eastern Ukraine, as per Kyiv's military.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un supervises demonstration of new exploding drones designed to crash into targets. Pledges to spur development of such weapons to strengthen his military's war readiness amid growing tensions with South Korea.
India-Singapore to hold multi-ministerial roundtable today. 4 Indian ministers to attend the meet to identify new areas of bilateral cooperation.
The United Arab Emirates achieves a record $381.5 billion in non-oil trade for the first half of 2024. Strategic agreements with countries like Iraq and India are driving major trade growth.
McLaren's Lando Norris breathes new life into Formula One World Championship. The Briton takes the checkered flag at the Dutch Grand Prix to end Max Verstappen's unbeaten streak at home.
Well, India's Central Bureau of Investigation has completed the polygraph test of 7 people, including the main accused, Sanjay Roy.
As part of probe into the rape and murder of a trainee doctor in Kolkata's Arjikar Hospital, the CBI has also turned up the heat on former principal of the hospital, Sandeep Ghosh. The probe agency carried out an 11-hour-long raid at his house in Kolkata, seized several documents. The CBI is investigating allegations of corruption against the ex-principal and has registered an FIR against him.
The probe was earlier being conducted by the SIT constituted by the West Bengal government.
Meanwhile, the polygraph test of the primary suspect, Sanjay Roy, was completed. Notably, ex-principal Ghosh, 4 doctors and 1 civil volunteer also underwent the polygraph test.
This comes after the Central Bureau of Investigation got the approval from the tests from a Kolkata court.
The lie detection test can only be conducted after obtaining the court's and the suspect's consent. When the judge asked the accused why he was consenting to the polygraph test, Sanjay Roy reportedly broke down before the judge, claiming that he was innocent. He was quoted as saying that he is being framed and that the test will prove that. The prime accused was also sent to 14 days judicial custody by the Kolkata court. He will remain in judicial custody until the 6th of September under the supervision of the CBI. But the suspect's mother and his lawyer have also claimed that he is being framed. His mother has even said that he was a topper. She insists that many people were involved in the crime. Sanjay Roy is currently the only person arrested in connection with the crime.
However, the victim's father also suspects that more than one person was involved. He believes that Sanjay Roy may be a scapegoat in an alleged cover-up. Now, with all of these developments, the ongoing investigation is gaining significance by the minute. As the probe continues, the parents of the victim have alleged that they believe that the department and other doctors know about the details of the incident and that they are silent out of fear.
हम तो पूरा विश्वास है कि जो अंदर में जो आदमी जो सब लड़का लड़की है और जो डिपार्टमेंट है वो सब जानता है उसको पकड़ने से पूरा विषय सामने आ जाएगा।
डिपार्टमेंट से कौन-कौन लोग
डिपार्टमेंट जो उसको चार जूनियर था, एक दीदी को 15-20 मिनट अंदर उसको जरूरत पड़ता है, लेकिन वो 7 घंटा से उसके बारे में कुछ नहीं जानता है। ये हमको बहुत दुख हो रहा है इस बात पर। वो सब जानता है लेकिन वो नहीं बोल रहा है, कोई घबराया हुआ है, तो मतलब बहुत हो सकता है ऐसा कुछ प्रॉब्लम है कॉलेज में.
The incident and the delay in the proceedings, it sparked nationwide outrage. Demonstrations have continued for nearly 2 weeks now. On Saturday, psychology students in Kolkata staged a protest overnight, demanding speedy justice. Drivers of app-based cab services in Kolkata also took out a rally.
We want justice! We want justice!
All right, relentless monsoon rain and overflowing rivers in Bangladesh have left at least 20 dead with more than 5.2 million affected nationwide.
Those ravaged by the floodwaters have been left isolated in urgent need of food, potable water, medicine and dry clothes. Relief rescue efforts have further been complicated by silt and debris blocking access to remote areas. Our next report has more.
Villagers in Bangladesh waded through deep water on Sunday to get to safer ground, as severe flooding triggered by relentless monsoon rains continue to inundate parts of the country. Officials say dozens of people have died and more than 5.2 million have been affected. Farmer Abdul Halim is one of them. He and his family fled their mud house days ago when a 10-foot-high wave plowed through their village. On Sunday, Halim returned alone to see what he could salvage.
The water receded for a while, but it is increasing again. It is now becoming a major headache. Where will we get food? Where will we stay? It is a big problem.
He says he ate some rice 2 days ago and has barely eaten since. Many of the displaced have no food, clean water, medicine, or dry clothes. Halim says there's been little relief, especially for those in more remote villages. Authorities say as of Sunday, more than 400,000 people from 11 flood-hit districts have taken refuge in around 3,500 shelters. They say medical teams and the military are assisting in rescue operations, but blocked roads have hampered their efforts. The Bangladesh Meteorological Department has warned that flood conditions could persist if the monsoon rains continue, as water levels are receding very slowly.
Moving on, heavy rains battering Indonesia have triggered floods in the North Maluku province since Saturday.
A rescue operation is underway to retrieve buried bodies under the rubble of the destroyed houses. 10 people have been rescued so far. 13 people have lost their lives. The injured are being treated at a local hospital.
Sweeping through residential areas, heavy floods destroyed at least 10 houses, causing massive damage to property in the city of Ternate.
Well, we can say that the number of victims who have been found is 13 victims as of 1921 local time. So with the discovery of 13 people, we are still searching for 6 people.
Indonesia's disaster management agency BNPB has deployed a team to help evacuate the victims. Weather forecasts suggest that heavy rain will continue for the next few days. Authorities have warned local residents to be on guard. All right, NASA has announced that it will not use Boeing Starliner capsule to return two astronauts currently stranded in space, citing safety concerns.
Right, the decision comes after the Starliner experienced thruster failures and helium leaks. Despite recent tests, NASA is determined that it was safer to keep the astronauts in space until February rather than risk using the troubled capsule. This marks yet another setback for Boeing, whose reputation has suffered majorly since the 737 MAX crashes in 2018 and 2019. Well, Boeing has been struggling with its Starliner program since it was awarded a $4.2 billion contract by NASA in 2014. The program has been plagued by technical issues, delays and budget overruns, pushing cumulative costs to more than $1.5 billion. And the latest issue with the Starliner resulted in a $125 million loss for Boeing in the June quarter of this year. Although the space capsule program represents a small fraction of Boeing's overall revenue, the reputational damage from this high-profile project, that has been major. Boeing's Defense and Space Division, once a strong performer, has also faced challenges recently, losing around $6 billion since 2022.
The company's financial woes are compounded by several fixed-price contracts, including the Starliner program, which have exceeded cost estimates. Despite these setbacks, NASA Administrator Bill Nelson expressed confidence that the Starliner will fly with the crew again. However, the ongoing difficulties highlight the broader struggles Boeing faces in regaining its standing in the airspace industry.
Well, and now we delve into the ongoing turmoil in China's stock market.
Despite numerous government interventions, the market continues to nosedive, leaving investors reeling. Here's a report for more on this.
China's once booming stock market has taken a significant dive. The CSI 300 index, a benchmark for Chinese stocks, has lost over 10% of its value this year. This downturn has sparked a mass exodus of investors seeking safer havens for their money. The Shanghai and Shenzhen exchanges have seen their daily trading volumes plummet to four-year lows. This indicates a significant loss of confidence among investors. As a result, the Chinese government has been scrambling to revive the market, but their efforts have so far proven ineffective. Investors have been shifting their assets away from stocks and into more stable options. Bonds, gold, and luxury properties have seen a surge in demand. The yield on China's benchmark government bond has hit a record low, reflecting the surge for safety. Overseas investments, particularly in the US and Japanese markets, have also become popular among Chinese investors. ETFs tracking these markets have seen a significant increase in demand as investors seek to diversify their portfolios. The Chinese government has implemented various measures to boost the stock market, including reducing interest rates and increasing government spending. However, these efforts have been hampered by economic challenges such as slowing growth and rising unemployment. Additionally, regulatory changes and investigations within the financial sector have further eroded investor confidence. The CSRC, China's security regulator, has faced criticism for its handling of the market downturn and its leadership changes. As the Chinese economy continues to face headwinds, the stock market is likely to remain volatile. Investors will be closely watching the government's next moves and the overall economic outlook to gauge the potential for a recovery. Business Bureau, WION World is One.
All right, let's now take a look at developments from the world of technology. Remember Pikachu, a beloved character from the world of Pokemon. The cute yellow fuzzy Pikachu has turned violent, or so it seems. Look at this gun-wielding image of Pikachu. This image, it's been generated by Grok, Elon Musk's AI chatbot. Grok continues to face backlash over unrestricted content creation. Experts worry Musk's decision to not have any restrictions on Grok's content could lead to the potential spread of misinformation and harmful content. There have been reports of users posting violent and sexually explicit AI-generated images featuring popular cartoon characters and celebrities. Currently, Grok AI is only available to X-Premium subscribers. With so much controversy surrounding Grok AI, Musk seems undeterred, calling Grok the most fun AI in the world.
According to a report by Checkpoint, a cybersecurity company, a security flaw in web applications is putting businesses at risk, known as server-side template injection or SSTI. This vulnerability allows hackers to inject malicious code into websites and then steal sensitive information. According to the report, 1 in every 16 organizations faced SSTI attacks each week over the past 3 months. Retail and wholesale businesses were particularly hit hard, the most, with 1 in 11 being targeted weekly. The banks and financial institutions were also majorly impacted, with 1 in 15 experiencing attacks. The report highlights how hackers are using clever tricks to hide their attacks and how there is an urgent need for businesses to prioritize web application security.
A group of northern ball ibises are being guided by a microlight, a small aircraft across Central Europe in an effort to assist them in their migration. While these birds display the natural urge to migrate, they often do not know which direction to fly without the guidance of wild-born elders. This is where biologist Johannes Fritz and the WALRAP team, an Austria-based conservation and research group, come into the picture. Called the Human Foster Parents Program, Fritz and his team raise the chicks, training the bird and making it believe the human is in fact its parent. Once the human-bird relationship is formed, the team then, using a microlight aircraft, guides the northern bald ibises over the Bavarian foothills in the hope of helping the rare bird species migrate. The team believes their program will not just help save the northern birds, but it will also pave the way for other threatened migratory species.
Let's now take a quick look at what is making news in the world of sports. McLaren's Lando Norris has breathed new life into Formula One World Championship. The Briton won the Dutch Grand Prix to end Max Verstappen's unbeaten home record. Norris started on pole but continued his run of poor starts as he gave up the lead to Red Bull's triple world champion. However, the McLaren driver regained his lead when he passed Verstappen on lap 18. He never looked back after that and took the checkered flag to finish 22 seconds ahead of the Dutchman. The win cuts Verstappen's lead at the top of the Drivers' Championship to 70 points with 9 rounds to go.
Keegan Bradley, the last man to qualify for PGA Tour's BMW Championship, has gone on to win it. The US Ryder Cup captain closed out with an even par 72 to register a nervy one-shot victory. Bradley pulled away from mistake-prone Adam Scott early in the back nine. He then delivered a clutch shot in the 17th that all but sealed the 7th victory of his PGA Tour career. Scott, Sam Burns and Sweden's Ludwig Aberg finish joint second. Bradley will now enter next week's season-ending Tour Championship in 4th place.
Mondo Duplantis broke his own pole vault world record again at Celsius Diamond League. He cleared 6.26 meters in his second attempt, defeating the 6.25 meters he cleared after retaining his Olympic gold medal in Paris. It's the 3rd time this year that he has set a world record. Overall, the 24-year-old has broken the world record 10 times, each time by 1 centimeter. Incidentally, Duplantis' first world record also came in Poland 4 years ago.